Hi guys, and welcome back on this 12th appointment of the Hollywood movie title V6 series. I'm Antonio Cherry, and today we're going to be looking at the animation style Pacific Rim, a very interesting 3D style. We will make this beautiful title using Cinema 4D for the modeling and animation of the logo emblem. Then, in After Effects, we will complete with the color corrections and the splitting of the lens flares for an amazing impact. Okay, so don't miss this and follow me. At the end of this tutorial, you can learn how to draw and animate your own title with Cinema 4D and After Effects. The actual example Pacific Rim version 2 is just for training purposes and is not to be used in a personal project without permission from the original creators. Okay, let's open the project file on Cinema. The first step sees the creation of the falcon emblem design and the organizing of the various splines within the layers of Cinema 4D. For this step, it is possible to draw the emblem outside Cinema with your preferred vector software or use the 2D drawing tool. As we can see, it's very important to organize the work of the various spline elements in separate groups layers. In this specific case, we have the tail group, the connect tail, the central body, the stylized head of the falcon, and finally the classic American star symbol, and the wings group. As a separate element, we have the text of the logo created with the direct utilization of a classic square font. But with this type style, it is possible to have many different results with a multitude of versatile impact designs. Try to believe. The next step is to give a size and shape to your interesting falcon logo emblem. Here we can see what attracts a lot of attention are the curved shapes of the wings. Of course, along with all the other elements that make up the emblem. As a tool for all parties, the undisputed protagonist is the loft NURBS. But we also have a Boolean and symmetry tools. But first, I'll show you how to get these fantastic curved wings. This procedure is a bit particular, but it's faster than the classic polygonal modeling. So follow me and look at. To get our final result with animated wings, we need 3 steps. As you can see, on the first we have a Boolean passage between the extrusion of wings. With an internal subdivision of 10 units. And depth value to 100. In this case, it is not necessary to activate the fillet cap and this drop base form. It has been obtained from a hemisphere polygon with a radius of 316 and 128 subdivision segments. Apply on it the tool FFD. I made it in such a way that the center of the drop corresponds with the pivot center of the wings. This step requires a bit of attention, but it is not complex. As you can see, I applied the Bool tool in A intersects B mode with the checks active, high quality, and hide new edges. In this way, we have our drop rounded base with the cutting of the wings. But to have a consistent thickness along all surfaces, it is necessary to use a little trick. We apply inside our hemisphere deformed polygon the tool Cloth NURBS. Very simple. Do not forget, it is very important that the subdivision value is set to 0 for the control of the thickness. Just apply the value you want. As you see in this way, Unfortunately, we can't have any type of rounded bevel, so the only solution is to apply the tool loft with the bent splines to have a bevel along the entire surface. Now I will show you the fastest way to get this. We convert our bool object in polygonal object by pressing on the keyboard the C letter. Going in the various sublayers, activate the layer Sphere. Activate the selection mode Line. With the kind of selection loop tool, to select only the outside, it is necessary to have active the checked Select Boundary Loop. If not, it will be an adventure to select all segments, line by line. So as I was saying, I have selected across the entire outside with a single click. Fantastic! Okay, now we apply the real magic. Go on to Mesh, Command, Edge to Spline. In this way, it is automatically created and added a new spline inside the sphere layer. In the conversion process, we have met all the parameters of subdivision. In fact, the new spline has many points. If we duplicate the same and we place behind with the thickness value that interests us. Now we can apply directly the loft tool. Finally, we have our own first wing. To make a good subdivision, it is necessary to insert a minimum value of 300. Wow, fantastic! Exact same curvature. But now we can have more of the bevel. If you prefer the linear type or classic rounded. To have a minimum of space between all other wings, apply a fillet cap value not exceeding 3. If you want to have this rounded bevel, the procedure must be repeated for all the other 9 wings. In this way, they will all be automatically separated. Very simple to manage and with a great result. To get the same final impact of the Group 2, just change on Caps panel the mode from triangles to n-gons. To animate every single wing, it is necessary before aligning the pivot axis so as to be placed with the center of each wing. Just activate the mode, change pivot. In this way, with 2 simple movements and keyframes set, it automatically activates the third inclination parameter. Now I will show you how they really are arranged for the wings in the departure. As you can see, they have gradual bend backwards to be in the final position with open wings that we already know. Now applying the symmetry tool, we have both sides, left and right. Once applied, the scheme of animation on the left side. In this way, it is very easy to apply all the changes that you prefer. I will show you better what I meant with automatic inclination. As you can see, during the whole sequence, all 3 rotation values are active. But in reality, in the frames S, 0, and 43, we have applied and fixed only 2 inclinations. Another simple trick to create and manage is simple and straightforward, a type of animation called gradual array. Here is the scheme that I have applied to all 10 wings. Good vision! This is done as an animation. The falcon has only a movement along the Z position of 155. View the result. We modify the settings of the document, 24 frames per second, with a total duration of 43 frames. Perfect. Now I will show you how to get the other parts of the emblem. The text of the logo has an extrusion depth of 20, with a linear fillet to 1.75. While for all the other elements I applied the classic technique with the loft tool with 2 or more splines. Here's how the 2 splines are set on the star. The same for the group of head. But here on the second mesh, we have a small difference in height. We got it with the change of Y position of the point in the upper. Very simple. Both have a bevel radius of 0.5 and steps 10. In the central part of the body, I inserted another hemisphere like that used for the modeling of the wings. Very flat, but with a radius of about 94 and with 64 segments of subdivision. To achieve this quadrangular body, it takes about 6 splines. We already know the loft modeling technique, already know the order of the spline must be from the internal to the external. Of course, all parties must correspond to the final shape you want. In this case, the shape resembles an old glass cathodic TV tube. But I must say that it presents very well. With the same technique like the head group, I got the tail connect. In fact, as you can see, it only used 2 splines. Finally, for the small fantail, I repeated the classic Boolean method that cuts an extrusion. But in this case, as you can see, I added a torus polygon with these parameters rather than a sphere. The camera in this project does not have animation and is fixed, positioned frontally with a distance of minus 1920. As I said before, the most interesting and complex part of this tutorial is the modeling of the curved wings and the animation of them without having problems with the management of inclinations. But now that you know the method, you can create your favorite emblem. Cool! Before proceeding with the insertion of materials, I will show you the light system. It is formed by 2 simple omni lights. As you can see, they are placed so as to create a lighting from behind to illuminate the bevel edges. The first and just behind the left wing of the emblem, while the second is placed always behind but at the top. I will show you in detail with an aerial view. During the sequence of movement of the Z position of the logo, it is followed by the system lights group, which move with a value of about 155 units, like the logo. The materials that I have chosen for this project are very simple. For the sky map, I reused the HDR map of the X-Men tutorial, but it was rotated so as to give chromates reflections similar to the original video. On the emblem were applied 3 variations of the same basic chrome material. As I mentioned in the Thor tutorial, if you want many elaborate reflections in various parts of the logo, they must be enabled by the module environment. After that, it is very active. Try different subdivisions of the tiles X and Y. to get the end result you prefer. In this case, for the wings, the entire tail and sphere of the central body has been applied the material chromed with a subdivision of tiles X and Y to 4 and 10, while for the exterior of the central body we have the tiles 2 and 1. Finally, for the head and the star, the default value 1 and 1. View the result. Fantastic, I love it. The distribution of the chrome materials creates an incredible final result. Obviously, the chrome in the curved wings has an impact that is very professional. For the logo text, I have applied the classic flat material black and white to divide the front, the bevel, and the body of extrusion. Subsequently, I will show you a very simple and interesting technique in After Effects where you can color the animated logo by Cinema 4D for the impact you prefer. Of course, as in some previous tutorials, for all to work well in After Effects, it is necessary to have separate renderings of the logo text and the emblem. Here's how they should be separated. The chrome emblem, the bevel, the extrusion, and finally the front part. Okay, let's go to the second part of the tutorial. This is our project in After Effects. The entire composite has a very interesting task, which is to join the colorful logo with the red-orange chrome emblem, together with the split lens flares and the final adding of smoke and particles. Okay, let's start with the logo text. A little premise. This project is an example of how to obtain interesting solutions using Cinema 4D and After Effects together, but in a completely unusual way. Okay, I will show you better. The 3 videos were drilled by black with the filter linear color key, leaving only the white part. In this way, for each layer can be applied and animated a complex color gradient layer style. For this sequence, I chose 3 essential points of the timeline: the beginning, middle, and the end. At any point in the timeline, you can change the colors, the angle of orientation, the positions, or you can always have new color schemes. Very cool, true? In addition, you can always add other classic layer styles. Here's an example of the bevel and emboss. That in the specific has a very small size impact, 0.5. I forgot the orientation angle is 0. The bevel video layer simply remains white. With the same technique, in the body of the extrusion was applied an interpolation of the gradient color and only 2 frames with an angle of 90 degrees in order to have a vertical distribution of the colors. Here is the first frame, and this is the second. To improve the impact of the logo, it has been added with the track matte, an oval white nuanced. This false light point has only 1 scale interpolation parameter, which follows the 3D movement of the logo. The feather value is 25. Of course, in your version, you can apply different shapes and colors to find other interesting solutions, as you like. Let's proceed to the elaboration of the chrome emblem. To have this red-orange uniform shade, it is sufficient to apply the tint filter with a red base color. On the exposure effect, we set minus 0.3 and 0.8. The camera lens blur is great to soften the edges. In this case, I applied a value of 2 with the shape type decagon. Finally, to give a more orange impact, I set the parameter master hue with a value of about 10 degrees. You can see this detail in the brighter parts of the emblem. The decision to include this style of lens flare gives to the emblem the sensation of being in a yard of mechanical work. Excellent choice. To improve the impact of chrome emblem, you can choose to insert strategic shadows. As you can see on a solid black layer, I drew 3 separate splines that work on 3 different points. Applying the shape interpolation on each spline, you can make dynamic the movement and get a realistic result that you prefer. In this case, works on the top right of the wing, in the outer part of the tail, and above the falcon head of the emblem. Obviously, to have these very soft edges, you must enter very high feather values, between 200 and 350. The shadows layer is set in multiply mode. But you can always choose to work without shadows, if you prefer. The splitting of the lens flare is composed into 3 parts. The first is used as a background, the second working with the yellow sparks above the emblem, and finally the last lens works above the logo and the color is electric blue. Here's how the last 3 lens flares work. The animated movement of all 3 lens flares is the same. Placed on the central horizontal line of the scene, has a horizontal opposite movement between the center position and the position of the lens. All 3 are derived from 2 presets. You can find it in the Motion Graphics folder. They are called Sancor 16 and Sector. Obviously, all are in add mode, but for the background layer it is not needed. It can be set to normal. In order to further enrich our scene, we may add footages of smoke and particles. Even in this case, to conform with the color of the project, I applied the same tint filter that I used on the chrome emblem. But to make the most incandescent the particles, I chose to add the glow effect with these parameters, 35, 11, and 1.0. Finally, the filter levels with the black input parameter to about 10 makes darker the empty areas. Even in this case, it seems too full of elements. You cannot apply them. Finally, to make everything with an interesting dirty style, we add an adjustment layer with the noise filter with value 8%. I love it. Very professional. Okay, for all of those who still have doubts and for all of those who still need more details, here is the scheme of animation parameters with all settings. Do not miss this and look at it on screen. Perfect. Insert the audio file and proceed with the final rendering. This is the result of our project. Awesome. For the audio, I used a soundtrack from the special Cinematic Trailer Pack. The author is Crane, and the audio track is called Massive Futuristic Hybrid Trailer. You can find this and many other interesting sounds on Audio Jungle. Okay, I will remind you of the 13th appointment for the new tutorial of the Hollywood Movies V6 series titles, ROBOCOP. Very hard 3D style. Stay tuned. I hope this tutorial has been to your liking. By Antonio Cherry. Cheers!